Welcome back to another episode of the Be the CEO of Your Life and Business podcast. This week's topic comes straight from another podcast that I was listening to. Not that the other podcast was not on this specific topic, but it was incorporated into the discussion. And it was Rachel Hollis's podcast this week. And the podcast was 15 things that make her life easier. So immediately I was like, I'm in. I'll listen to anything,
Yes.
any suggestions to make life easier. And so she started talking about the different habits that she has and things that help her in her life. And it's got a little similar to what we talked about last week, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that she said really stuck out to me. And she said she thinks about whether the habits that she is incorporating into her life help her present self, okay? Basically being in survival mode. So are they for like the present moment? Or are they something that is helping her future self and setting her future self up for success? And so it really made me think about all the habits that I have. And, you know, some of them are definitely like for in the moment, right?
Mhm.
But a lot of them are really to set my future self up for more ease and success. And
Yeah.
the planning that we do for so many different things, like my morning routine, my evening routine, all these different things, are really to set your future self up, make life easier for your future self.
I almost feel like there's like, it's like a double-edged sword, right? On those ones that are for the immediate time, because like you can say that there are certain habits that you need to have just to survive this period of time, right? Let's say for an example, your kids are running in 7,000 directions.
Yes.
So are you guys. So if you had like a meal delivery service, right, that came to your house because you need to survive this like hectic season, it's not necessarily a bad thing either, because it could
Right.
give you a little bit more time. And it's not something that I think 5 years from now you'll look back on and you'll be like, darn it, I wish I didn't save myself time. I wish I stressed myself out
Right.
to try and cook dinner every night. But then there's other ones where it's like, you've been sleeping in, you've been hitting the snooze button. You've been like, I'm so tired because I'm so stressed. I have so much on my plate. I can't, wake up at my normal time. I've got too much on my mind, whatever it is. Those are the kind of habits that I think you think that you're helping yourself in the present moment. But in reality, however many months from now, even closer than that, I think that's going to make an impact on you physically, mentally, emotionally. Like it's going to have a negative impact. So those are the habits that when you start to ask through this lens of like, is it helping me? Is it going to be something that can set me up in the future? I think those are the ones that are going to be like the tricky ones where you're like, oof, maybe it isn't helping me in the long run.
What would you say, totally putting you on the spot?
Oh, great. Here we go.
What would you say are some habits that you have currently that would really benefit your future self?
What are habits? Oh, okay. Well, let's like shift gears from like health and fitness, but I think financial habits are also habits that can be overlooked, right? Like setting money aside to save it in retirement and investments, and also just having like an emergency fund in place. So for me and my family, we've been like a Dave Ramsey family for a very long time now. And we've also just like kind of gone with the flow of like other inspirational financial experts. And one of the things that you can definitely notice is that when you have to start saving money and putting money aside, it's like you're taking from your immediate like money piles for right now, right? And that can be really stressful. But 5 years from now, we're going to be really happy that we did this. It's the same concept of like paying off your student loans, paying off debt. Like you're going to be really happy because when you have that breathing room in years from now, you're like, oh, thank you. Good thing I paid off all of this, or good thing I had my financial house in order. So that's one habit that I think I could
I'm
speak
listening to
to.
you, but I need to speak on that point, but I need to look for some information. So keep going.
Well, but so, diving, I guess, a little bit deeper into that topic in particular. So when Joey and I first got married, I was very much in the mindset of like, these law school loans are my loans. Like these are not what's mine is yours when you get married.
Yeah.
I was very much like, no, these loans are all on me. I'm the one that went to law school. I'm the
Yeah.
one that incurred them. And Joey didn't have any of those financial burdens because he went to technical school and then he just went right into the workforce. So he doesn't have the, that higher education degree that is like literally brutal, like a
Mhm.
6-figure loan when you graduate law school and you're like, holy cow. But I paid that off probably within like 7.5 years after graduating law school because we literally just threw everything we could at it just to get rid of it because I did not want that to be something looming over my head where I'm like, I'm working my job that's already so stressful every single day just to make sure that I can cover that. And I was like, as soon as that was gone, it really did lighten up my mental space. And I'm
Yeah.
so thankful because now having kids, it's like paying another huge mortgage. So
Mike
it's
and I
like,
have 2 that we're
right.
still paying.
Yeah. So it definitely is one of those habits that I feel like has set us up for our future self will be thanking us at some point.
So those are definitely habits that I did not have when I was younger. I kind of just didn't care and just lived in the moment or whatever. But over the years, I had no choice but to change my thinking around this
Right.
issue.
Right.
I I like Dave Ramsey and I like his concepts, but I feel like he's a little bit unrealistic for a lot of people.
Totally agree.
I like when I think of him, I think of like, okay, I should be eating macaroni and cheese and not spending $1 and not living and not enjoying my life. That's really what he makes me feel like. I found these 2 women, I think I sent them to
Yes, you
you.
did.
They are actually certified Dave Ramsey coaches, right? So
Okay.
they were trained by him, but they have recognized with a lot of people that they work with that his concepts just don't work for a lot of people. And so they work with the same concepts, but it's so different. Like
Okay.
just the way, I'm not going to go into it on this podcast. This is a whole other episode.
We could talk about that for an hour.
They, so I bought their budgeting system because
Oh, nice.
before I bought it, I listened to probably about 75 of their podcasts because I was like, I'm not going to spend money on this
Yeah.
unless it's something I really think will work for me. Like I'll
Right.
jive with them.
Right.
And I bought it and it's literally like some of the best money I've ever spent because the
amazing.
way they structure everything just works so much better for me and my family. And so the podcast is called Financial Coaching for Women. And this is why I love them. Like they're busy moms, their kids play travel sports, so they understand the expense of raising kids, having them play travel sports, all of the things that come with that.
Yeah.
So the way that they coach women and moms in particular is just something that resonates with me so much. So I am absolutely obsessed with them.
I love that.
And so, but that is a habit, like going back to the way you started the conversation, is that is a habit that it does benefit your present self in some capacity, but it's really for the benefit of your future self.
Agreed.
Because look,
Yes.
I'm sure had to live more restrictively if you were, really working so hard to pay those loans off so fast.
Yeah.
But now they're gone.
But now they're gone. It's so true because, we were not like the married couple that was like spending all of this money on like these fancy trips. And like, we also had a kid within a year after
Right.
getting married. So it was like very much, we were not setting ourselves up for, going on lavish vacations or doing huge home renovations, like none of that stuff. But now, as our kids are getting that little bit older, we're now starting to be like, oh, okay, so we have a little bit of wiggle room to do this project or to go and do this or spend a little bit of money here. And it's like, it opens you up. You don't see it in the moment, which is why some people can get so frustrated by their oh, well, this isn't working for me, right? Because they don't see an immediate benefit.
Right.
But the way that this perspective, what this is doing for you is really forcing you to take that look of like, will my future self thank me for doing this habit right this second?
Yeah. And you can even think of it, and the way Rachel Hollis was talking about it was like things that she does on a daily basis. Like when I set myself up the night before for the next day,
Yeah.
that is setting up my future self for having a less stressful morning. So if I can, now it's a little bit more difficult with the spring sports season that we're in because I'm typically not home at night.
Right.
But the past 2 nights, things have changed and I was home. So I packed the kids' snacks for the next morning. So they are literally sitting on the counter
Yeah.
for the next morning, and it's one less thing that I have to do, and one less thing that's taking up brain space
Yes.
in the morning.
Yeah, in the
right?
morning. Yes.
Yeah.
It'll take up time at night. And again, it's like that, it's a short-term sacrifice. Okay, so you can't sit on the couch and put your feet up and like just unwind. But then in the morning, you're like, oh, everything's ready. Now I have a couple extra minutes. Or hey, we don't have to rush to school because we are already ready. There's
Yeah.
not another thing that we're like, shoot, we forgot to pack that. Or I agree with you. I think setting yourself up for success, it's so underrated.
Mhm.
It really, really is. Like people are very much into convenience things right now. Like, oh, let me get my coffee on the go. Let me have my food delivered. You're losing all of that habit building and that
Mhm.
skill of really like, how do you build a habit anymore? If you rely on all these other conveniences and all this other stuff that's just instant gratification, you're so attuned to instantly being gratified for everything.
Well, you can set yourself up, talking about the grocery delivery.
Oh, yes.
I am just in the season where I have to do that. I have
Yeah.
a choice. I literally cannot get to the grocery store on the weekends. I
Yeah.
certainly can't do it during the week.
Yeah.
But I don't wait until Sunday morning to order my groceries.
Mhm.
Like I have to plan. I mean, I could do that,
You could,
but then
right.
I'd be stressing like, oh my God, when am I gonna be home today? How am I gonna? No, I cannot handle that anymore in my life. So
Mhm.
I usually on Saturday, I will look at what we have for Sunday and see what time frame works best to have the groceries delivered.
Right.
And then I'm not scrambling to place my order. I'm not spending more than I need to spend. Like I take the time on Saturday, literally, even if I'm sitting at the baseball field. I did this when I was in Ripken. Okay.
I love that.
I sat on the baseball field, and now that I'm doing it more and more, it takes me less time. But that Saturday, when I was sitting there in the field, I ordered my groceries for a time where I knew we'd be back,
Mhm.
right, from Maryland,
Mhm.
to have them delivered.
Yeah.
So when I was driving home on Sunday, I wasn't worrying about how am I gonna have food for the week.
Right.
So that was something it's annoying to have to sit there and like do the order and go back and forth and see what I really need, but that is something that set me up for less stress when I arrived home from a weekend away, heading into a work week ahead.
Right.
Right? Does that make
No, it
sense?
totally makes sense. And that's the thing. It has to work. It has to work for you. I think the point that I was trying to make is that you lose the ability to build these kinds of habits that you can kind of reach for when you hit tough spots, right?
Mhm.
Like, so
Because you're just trying to survive
because you're
in the
just
moment.
trying to survive, right? And I think that's why it's been so important to try and like cling to certain habits, because going through not only becoming a mom once, but then becoming a mom for a second time during a global pandemic, and then building a business
Yeah.
and trying to now raise a family and deal with the hectic schedules of kids and their extracurriculars and all of those things, it can really feel hard to grasp to any sense of normalcy, whatever that is, for yourself.
Yeah.
Where you almost like feel like you are being really successful. And one of the things that I always fall back on and rely upon are the habits that made me feel the best that I did.
Yeah.
So thinking back to within like the past 5 to 6 years, it was meal prepping. It was my
Mhm.
morning routine. It was, the way that I set up my coffee or my energize in the morning. It's like those little things bring me a sense of peace and like normalcy and consistency that I now, all of these years later, am really thankful that I started 5 or 6 years ago, because they're still setting me up for success.
Yeah.
I don't know where I would be. I feel like I would be in like a whiplash, like a tornado.
And we
trying
still are
to-
in that tornado sometimes.
We are,
But think
but
about how much worse it would be if you didn't have these habits.
taking the words right out of my mouth. How many times we used to say that too in our prior office, how we were like, if we did not have the habits that were making us feel healthy, energized, like just happy in general, dealing with the stress that we were dealing with, where would we be?
I don't know.
Like in
You
a
know
fetal
how-
position under the
Yeah,
table.
they sometimes, you ever hear like the smallest habits make the biggest impact?
Yes.
So like setting up your coffee the night
Mhm.
before, setting up your energy. I do the same thing. I
Yeah.
set, sometimes I don't do my coffee all the time, but I always have like my cups out the night before with my Energize sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's something like that seems so insignificant,
Mm-hmm.
but when I roll out of bed in the morning and I have my my workout clothes laid on the counter in my bathroom, everything is there.
Yeah.
I just have to get up, change,
Yep.
go downstairs. I don't like really cold water.
Me
with my
neither.
Energize, so
Oh my
I fill
gosh,
my cup the
yes.
night before. Do you do that?
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God, it's actually frightening. But so I fill the water the night before so that
Yeah.
it's not cold. All I do when I walk downstairs is open the Energize, dump it in the water and walk down to the basement.
Yes.
And it sounds so ridiculous, but it's such a small thing, but it makes my morning so much easier. It has a huge impact on my life.
It totally does. I'm trying to think of other habits too. I mean, one of the habits that I started implementing when we were at our old office, and I still try to do to this day, is not look at my emails before I do my workout.
That is one of the best habits. I have gotten away from
It-
that, looking at the emails in the morning, so I don't look at them. I don't even think about looking at them, probably until around 7:30 or so.
I started doing this. I don't remember what, it was one of the trainings that we were going through when we were, doing network marketing. And it was the concept of like, you need to pour your own cup first. And I have loved that phrase since the moment I first heard it. You have to pour into yourself first. Every time you open an email or a text message or anything else that does not relate to your morning practice or your whatever rituals, you are stealing your own sanity and your own peace.
Mhm.
You are giving it away to somebody else. So even to this day, if I get the urge to like open, because any other time I pick up this phone, I'm always on here to
Yeah.
look for messages or
Mhm.
emails that have come through,
Yeah.
or like my kids' school. And if I get the urge first thing in the morning to like open it, I quickly like lock my screen. I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't press, the temptations, because it really does steal my joy. Because once I see certain people's names popping into my inbox, I'm like, well, that's going to be a problem. And my mood automatically shifts. And I hate to say it like that. We're so fragile in that sense of like our moods can be swayed, but
They can.
they can. And in this season of life right now, they're fragile. You're a human being. You
Yeah.
have feelings like that.
And think about it though, like that habit is really helping your future self.
Yeah.
Like you may feel in the moment that like you have that anxiety that you need to like make yourself feel better and look and see what's there.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm literally ruining my morning.
Yeah.
So, and setting myself up for more anxious day.
Yeah.
So that once in a while, I will think about it and open up my email, but honestly, I really don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's changed like the trajectory of my days,
Yeah.
because I would get up, go downstairs, do my stuff, go downstairs, start my morning routine. And one of the first things would be to look at my emails to make sure like that nothing what's going to be exploding in the middle of the night?
And
Nothing.
if it is exploding in the middle of the night, it's not
Who
really
cares?
exploding, because
Right.
that's not an emergency.
Right.
Like if you're sending it in an email, it is never an emergency.
No.
You'll send it in a text message, probably still not an emergency.
Yeah.
If the fire marshal is at the door, it's an emergency.
So I put my phone on sleep mode, right? So
Mhm.
that I don't have any of I don't have notifications for my emails anyway on my
Right.
phone.
Right.
But I don't get notifications on my phone
I
at night, so I don't see them first thing in the morning.
I can't stand the bubble notifications. I literally will turn them off on almost every single thing, especially my work emails, especially on any of like the ads and like all that stuff on shopping. But it is not an emergency, but that little red circle is trying to tell you and convince you that that is an emergency that you
Yeah.
have to take care of.
Yeah.
And again, something that we learned when we were going through all these trainings, like when it's time to go into your inbox, that's the time to go in. That's why when we do our time blockers or we plan out our days, there are times where you should be going into your inbox.
Mhm.
You should not be in there all day. You could live in there
Yep.
all day
Yeah.
long. And it's at any given moment, I have a few emails that are still lingering that I'm like, when I have the time that I can really dedicate to this, I will sit there. And it's the same thing with the morning. It is not the time to
No.
open your emails and start diving in, because then you lose all sense of any peace and setting yourself up in your day for success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really, I mean, it's been life-changing, I think, for both of us
Yeah.
to have these habits that really set your future self up for success. And I never really thought, I mean, I guess I thought about it a little bit that way because obviously you plan for a reason to make your
Right.
next day or whatever easier.
Right.
But when I think about a lot of the habits that I have, they really are to set my future self up for success rather than surviving in the present moment. So, if you think about the habits that you have, in your life, whether it's a morning routine or an evening routine or anything else that you do, can you change it a little bit to set your future self up for better success? Because it really, really does make a difference and an impact in your life. So we thank
Yes.
you for spending time with us, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.